Breaking news tonight out of Baltimore County. A student is stabbed after a fight at Kenwood High School. Marilyn Mosby takes the stand again. We take you live to Greenbelt after a day of tense questioning. An extensive juvenile crime plan out of Annapolis. Why City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says he's on board.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala. We are following that breaking news out of Baltimore County after a student is stabbed at Kenwood High School earlier today. Fox 45 News has obtained video of the incident into our newsroom. It is disturbing. Take a look at this. A male student is seen running towards the other and then begins to punch him. That's when the other student pulls out a sharp object and stabs him at least twice, just to get the guy off of him before running away. The student who was stabbed then staggers to his feet. A student who was not involved with the incident spoke with Fox 45 News about what he saw.
He got rushed. They just started fighting, and the other guy that got rushed, he instead of fighting back, he was just reaching the whole time. He was just reaching until he was able to get hold of a knife, and then he just started stabbing him.
The school was placed on a temporary lockdown. The victim was taken to the hospital for his injuries. According to Baltimore County Police, school resource officers arrested the other student. Marilyn Mosby continues to take the stand for a second time, testifying again in her federal mortgage fraud trial for a second day. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been following this case from the very beginning. She joins us live from Greenbelt with more on today's proceedings. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary, it was another tense day of testimony from Marilyn Mosby, who was called back to the witness stand for more cross-examination. While on the stand, Marilyn says that she did not think anything of the fact that she did not disclose the federal tax lien and tax liabilities that she held with her now ex-husband, City Council President Nick Mosby. She says again that she blames her mortgage broker for handing her a mortgage application that was pre-populated. She says she reviewed it but didn't think anything of it because she believed that everything was up to date on Nick's end. And that's really this theme of this entire defense. She continues to place blame on others, blaming the mortgage broker, blaming her ex-husband Nick Mosby for keeping the financial problems a secret from her. But remember that this entire thing happened while she was serving as the top prosecutor in Baltimore City, and legal experts say that could play a role in the jury's decision.
The ostrich defense in a case like this only gets you so far. The other problem you have here is, like, you're not just a lawyer. At the time, you were the top lawyer for a prosecution in Baltimore. And, you know, there's the kind of you should know better component of this.
And Mackenzie, what is the timeline for this trial to wrap up? Pretty soon, I imagine.
Yeah, and we could hear from the judge today that she's getting antsy, even frustrated with the attorneys at times. Both sides did rest their case today. The jury was excused for the entire weekend around 2 o'clock. That's because the court does not sit on Fridays. Now, on Monday, we do expect closing arguments to begin for both sides, which means the jury could begin deliberations Monday afternoon. We're live in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Fox 45 has been following the Mosby case every step of the way. For our full reporting and the latest on the trial, head to foxbaltimore.com.
We've been clear that any juvenile justice bill that comes to my desk must emphasize accountability.
For months now, prosecutors across the state have been pleading for an answer to the juvenile crime crisis. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live now with reaction from Baltimore City's top attorney.
Well, not only is Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates on board with this crime plan, he says that it mirrors most of his own proposals. In fact, he says there's only one key measure that he still plans on fighting for. The extensive juvenile crime plan Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates has been pushing for months now.
I think our future is at stake, and the laws just aren't working.
We have to begin to hold juveniles accountable.
Seemingly serving as an outline for a new juvenile justice reform bill set to replace Senator Jill Carter's controversial reform laws taking effect just a year and a half ago. In that short amount of time, Bates claiming his office alone seeing a 99% increase in juvenile charges.
So you clearly see that something has changed dramatically. And what was that change? The law here.
On Wednesday,
aren't getting the services they need.
Governor Westmore, alongside dozens of Democratic lawmakers, introducing a laundry list of new legislative priorities with a focus on accountability for both young offenders and the state's juvenile justice system.
We need to make sure that actions have consequences.
We're focusing on making sure that the system actually works.
Top priorities paralleled in both plans: shortening the deadline for DJS intake decisions, increasing probation limits for juvenile offenders, strengthening staffing within DJS's ankle monitoring unit, and allowing children under the age of 13 to be charged with violent crimes currently blocked under the prior legislation, including firearm offenses, car thefts, sexual assaults, and animal abuse.
That just tells me great minds are thinking alike.
As car thefts continue taking off across the city, Bates, confident enforcing consequences no matter the age, will finally help curb the troubling crime trend.
I think it will have an impact because you will not see older people, older kids using and abusing younger kids. Because keep in mind, this is not once again about incarcerating young people, it's about also protecting young people.
Although for more immediate change, Bates believes tweaks still need to be made to DJS intake practices immediately following all car thefts.
In this plan, DJS, I believe, would have almost 15 days before they forwarded the case to us. I would love to be able to be there day one with the intake. That way we can work with the police to put together a better case. 15 days I still feel is way too long.
And more waiting now begins as the bill enters a lengthy legislative process where arguments are expected on both sides of the aisle.
They have this bizarre view that we shouldn't have parents and children be able to work together to answer questions about crimes. We need to change that law.
I think that what's necessary is that any changes are based on actual data.
This is the outcry from police, prosecutors, and victims. Continue to demand action be taken right now. Tonight, the Maryland State's Attorneys Association is also responding to this bill. Overall, they agree with Bates. They are very supportive of most of the measures being introduced, but they do also have their own single critique. They sent a statement to Fox 45. It reads in part, quote, "The MSAA believes the child interrogation issue still needs to be addressed, whether it is in this legislation as an amendment or in another bill. Now, that Interrogation Act requires juveniles be provided a lawyer before police and prosecutors can question them. Many law enforcement leaders across the state have been saying that this hinders their ability to conduct investigations and get answers from juveniles so that they can solve crimes. However, I talked to Bates about this. He says it's not a top concern for his office." In Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, today, some state lawmakers heard passionate testimony about Senate Bill 160, legislation that looks to change the way servers and bartenders earn their pay. Senate Bill 160 proposes eliminating the tip credit for Maryland's restaurant workers starting in 2027. Right now, servers and bartenders in Maryland earn a wage of $3.63 an hour, with the difference made up in tips from customers. This legislation looks to raise restaurant wages to the state's full minimum wage, which is now $15 an hour. Those who support the bill call current restaurant wages sub-minimum wages, and those against the bill believe customers will tip less under this model and that restaurants could add service charges to tabs.
Calling for a full minimum wage with tips on top. There's a sub-minimum wage for tipped workers in Maryland that's just $3.63. It's a direct legacy of slavery.
Servers here in Maryland want to keep the current tipping system in place, and the reason being is that on average they make twice the minimum wage.
The tip credit was recently eliminated in Washington, D.C., and there are conflicting opinions on how it's going. A beautiful winter day out there today with, yes, finally, we got some sunshine. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali with hopefully some more sunshine for the next couple of days.
It felt so nice. We've got more coming, but we do have to get through some changes first. But at least I think it's going to line up just right for everyone to at least happen on the weekend. So let's take a look outside. Kind of a nice evening going on. It's not going to be as chilly as it was last night. We're still sitting around 51 degrees outside, very light south wind, and clouds are very few. But now that the sun's gone down, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference if we start to cloud up. Otherwise, if it did cloud up, which it will, it kind of helps insulate us like a little blanket, and that'll keep our temperatures from falling too quickly. We'll be in the low 40s by around 10 o'clock, but what's happening is we have a cold front approaching. Not a lot of moisture along it yet, but we're expecting to see some showers start to pop up late tonight into tomorrow. You can expect to see the activity coming up, and we're going to be tracking rainfall likely at least to start your Friday. But the good news is it's not going to last like that all day or into the weekend. So we're going to track what is coming for your weekend. We're even going to talk about Groundhog Day. That's tomorrow. What is Punxsutawney Phil going to say about it? We'll have a look.
I'm Christine Frazan with what we're hearing from big city residents who say they want to help the migrants in their city, but also take care of their own.
President Biden has arrived in Detroit, Michigan. He's in town to celebrate an endorsement by the United Auto Workers Union and try to win favor with voters in the critical swing state. The visit comes as President Biden faces criticism for his handling of the war in Gaza. Michigan has the nation's highest density of Arab Americans, and many feel like Biden's playing politics with their people.
For us, Palestinian lives are not measured in poll numbers. And so we have to have a serious dialogue about moving forward.
Biden's schedule does not include any meetings with Arab Americans. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley is in South Carolina today, rallying support. Surrogates for former President Trump are also there. They're going back and forth about the border crisis.
When it comes to the border, it doesn't even look like the United States of America anymore, what we're allowing to have happen.
He's driving the Trump train of sensible immigration policy. Nikki Haley and others have recently jumped on that train, but they're just passengers.
Hallie will need to overcome some deficits if she wants to do well in the South Carolina primary later this month. Many polls have Trump, her former boss, leading by sizable margins. The former South Carolina governor hopes to win support from moderates and independents. President Biden is leading former President Trump in a hypothetical general election matchup in two new national polls. A Quinnipiac poll shows him leading by 6 points, and YouGov gives him a slim 1-point lead, 43 to 42%. But according to a Morning Consult poll, Trump is leading Biden 48 to 42% in 7 swing states. Well, what does it actually mean to be a sanctuary city? Some city leaders now raising concerns their city and state budgets are being drained to help migrants from other countries at the expense of their own residents. Fox 45's Christine Frizzell live in Washington, D.C. for us tonight. Christine, what are you hearing?
You know, Mary, we're hearing a great deal of frustration. A lot of residents feeling this personally, feel that their own families cannot make ends meet. They don't have enough money to pay for rent, to buy food. They certainly can't travel, and they say they're watching as those from other countries get all of those things for free.
Leaders of several American cities say they've reached a breaking point.
We're here today because we really don't have a choice.
Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey facing pushback from residents for converting this rec center outside of Boston into a migrant shelter.
We sympathize with them. We as a people in our community, we love, but sometimes we love so much that we spite our own selves.
Shame on Healey! Some furious they could lose the facility for the next 4 months as they watch other aspects of daily life grow more difficult.
We have schools now, teachers who have class sizes that are increasing, students that they don't have the supports to help. We have hospitals that our patients are in the hallways right now.
The Democratic City Councilor Erin Murphy suggesting when hers and other cities were designated sanctuary cities, they may not have thought through how much support would be needed.
There's a concern that their local resources are going to be depleted. So I think it is shedding light on what it really means to be a sanctuary city.
Similar challenges in New York City, where a tent camp is growing by the day outside of a major shelter there.
No tenemos donde vivir, no hay trabajo ni nada.
This man says we don't have anywhere to live. There's no work, something advocates have slammed.
It's insanity for the U.S. government to welcome people from other countries into the United States and say, come in, but by the way, you can't work. What are they supposed to do?
Questions about making ends meet also loom large for these big cities. Chicago's already spent more than $156 million to pay for migrants, Denver more than $40 million, and New York City reporting spending $2 billion already, projecting $12 billion more if things don't change. All they say at the expense of their residents.
Wow, we know what's being spent. Do we know where that money is coming from?
Yeah, this is the one thing we hear from mayors and governors in a lot of these places. They're begging the federal government to pitch in to help cover the costs. But so far, that's not really happening in any sort of major way. So we're seeing cuts. New York reportedly will freeze the hiring of police officers and make cuts to its sanitation department and universal pre-K program. Chicago just announced it will use $79 million in federal COVID relief money to help pay for costs associated with migrants. That's money that they're not using for other things in their city. Mary?
It is clearly a controversial issue. Christine Frizzell live for us in D.C. tonight. Thanks so much.
Good evening. Things are looking better as we head into this weekend. We'll be tracking more sunshine, but first we've got some weather to come through tonight. It's not going to impact a ton of us because I think most of it will happen while we are asleep tonight, but get ready for some changes first before we get to some good stuff. But happy first day of February. And as we head into tomorrow, it's a big day for us here in the weather department. It's Groundhog Day. What's that mean? Oh, we'll find out. Punxsutawney Phil's got his big prognostication starting early tomorrow morning. We'll see what he might be forecasting. 51 degrees right now, not too bad. We'll be looking at, again, this cold front coming through tonight. This is going to have an impact on his prognostication in Punxsutawney, and it'll have an impact on our weather. We're starting to see some development with some cloud cover here right through Pennsylvania. Some of that could turn into the form of some rainfall later on tonight. That's what all the models are showing, and that's what we're expecting. So here it is on future scan. We're not going to get too cold tonight. Last night was frosty. I think we're only going to bottom out in the low 40s, and that will mean some rain shower activity late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Going to be very cold rain, and then it's going to last to around daybreak or so. This is showing some lingering showers around 7 a.m., so some of us will be driving to it in work if you're getting an early start. The later we go in the morning, the drier it will become, and we're looking at just some very spotty activity, so it's maybe at least some damp roads to start your morning. And then around lunchtime, I think we're going to start seeing the clouds break just a little bit, but it's still going to be breezy and chilly. And then tomorrow night, it's going to be pretty cold again, down below freezing for most of us. Starting Saturday that way, but again, all the clouds are gone, and we're going to be having a nice, dry and bright, sunshiny weekend for you. All right, let's take a look at what's going on at Punxsutawney. And Phil, I think, is going to be seeing lots of cloud cover tomorrow. This is what I am seeing on the data, and that means he may not see his shadow, which the folklore says that means early spring. So we'll find out tomorrow from the man himself what he sees, if he sees his shadow or not, but it's not looking great if you want more winter. But if you're like me and you're looking forward to early spring, we could see that quite likely here. 41 degrees tonight, again, cloudy showers after midnight, and then again tomorrow, 48 degrees after that lingering morning rainfall. We're going to take a look a little bit later into your weekend coming up, and then 10-day forecast as well.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
As an atmospheric river brings wind, rain, and snow to California, Portland, Oregon was treated to a tranquil sunset over the Pacific. In the snowy Montana mountains, an eagle is captured in mid-flight. Notice the foggy valley in the background. A gorgeous 22-degree halo was spotted in southern Alabama, and there's still plenty of snow on the ground at Sam's Gap, Tennessee.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Protesters are turning up the political heat on President Biden. Pro-Palestinian protesters turning up the political heat on the Biden administration's support for Israel. Here's Sinclair's national correspondent, Kayla Gaskins.
The people pro-Palestinian protesters shutting down the highways leading into the nation's capital Thursday morning. An unrelenting crusade underway to get Secretary of State Antony Blinken to change his approach. Demonstrators camping outside his home for nearly a week now.
We're constantly trying to think about creative ways to get through to this administration.
The issue tumbling into the presidential election. Shouts interrupting President Biden's recent campaign speech in Virginia.
Jill and I had a chance to sit down.
And Kamala Harris's event in California. Amid this growing political pressure, the State Department now reportedly looking into the idea of the U.S. recognizing a Palestinian state when the war ends, according to Axios. And while the U.S. has long supported the two-state solution, in the past, America left negotiations up to Israel and the Palestinian Authority.
To immediately be talking about how we're going to change policy in order to placate people who support Hamas or people who are anti-Israel, I think is a bad idea. This is simply not the time to talk about a two-state solution.
The Biden administration's attempts at diplomatic solutions complicated by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has repeatedly rejected such solutions. Reports of the State Department shift comes as data shows Biden struggling to gain support from his base on the issue. A recent YouGov Economist poll found 51% of voters who chose Biden in 2020 think Israel's bombardment of Gaza is too harsh. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Okay, here it is, your 10-day forecast, and a lot of good things coming our way. We do have to get rid of some rainfall that's going to happen tonight into tomorrow. Remember, it's Groundhog Day officially tomorrow, so we'll find out what Punxsutawney Phil's prognostication is. But I've got one that is always accurate. We will always have 6 more weeks of winter, no matter what he says, because spring doesn't start until the middle of March. That's how I get it right every time. Sunshine for the weekend. We'll be looking at more of that as we head into the next week, but some slightly cooler than average temperatures next week, late next week. We'll look at it a little bit warmer.
Gerard, thank you. Finally tonight, emotional support animals can help students deal with mental health concerns. So meet Pebbles, a 1-year-old mini chocolate labradoodle who is bringing joy to students at a university in New Jersey. School officials say they used to bring emotional support animals during finals and midterms until Pebbles arrived. Pebbles is now undergoing her own therapy training to officially become an emotional support dog. She is cute. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's up next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Good night.